Hello and welcome to Network. I hope you're still having a good holiday season and are taking pics on your devices with what you're doing during this holiday season. You can send us some of those pictures to newsnetwork@sabc.co.za. You can also tag us on Twitter when you upload them. We're on SABC Network. It's also SABC Network on Facebook. During the last segment of this show, we'll give you a bit of our year in review. We saw the release of some cool new gadgets like the Samsung Gear smartwatch and the PS4. Let's get to our technology and social media news now. 2013 saw many South Africans protesting against the electronic tolling system on highways of the country's richest province, Gauteng. Despite protests, some drivers are now receiving their bills over the post and on text messaging services. Now, reports from Zimbabwe say that country will also be getting e-tolls. Producer Lebusi Jage tells us about it.
Zimbabwe's daily newspaper, The Herald, has reported that the southern African country could be getting the electronic tolling system. The newspaper says that the city council plans to partner with South African company Neo Capital in a 4.2 billion deal that is aimed at refurbishing the capital's debilitated roads. Reports further say negotiations are set to conclude on December 31st. This happens despite protests against e-tolls in South Africa, and most drivers on Gauteng roads have resisted buying tags that will ensure they are billed properly. Drivers in South Africa are flooding the complaint website Hello Peter with their dissatisfaction with SANRAL's e-tolling system. Motorists have lodged complaints ranging from receiving incorrect bills to missing invoices. Some motorists have received vague text messages on their mobile phones, such as this one. This text says that drivers should pay 60 Rand 36 cents. It does not have information of the registration number of the vehicle being billed. This, according to the complaints, causes confusion for motorists who own more than one vehicle.
South Africa's third largest mobile phone network provider, Cell C, has announced the passing of founding member, retired Lieutenant General Nhlohonolo Moloi. The 82-year-old anti-apartheid struggle veteran passed away on Christmas Eve in Sunninghill Hospital. The Lieutenant General will be given a military send-off in Gauteng on January 3. South Africa's landline operator Telkom has sold its Mauritius IT business iWay Africa to Gondwana International Networks. Telkom CEO Sipho Masego says the company's Mauritius unit is not a core business and has been running at a loss. He says the move is one of many initiatives that will contribute to Telkom's turnaround strategy. Masego believes the sale will allow the company to focus on its core South African fixed line and mobile operations. Kenyans have failed to meet their government's broadcasting digital migration deadline. This was set for Friday, December 27. Instead, media houses have launched a bid to halt the process by approaching the Court of Appeals. In a minute, we will chat to Sarah Kimani, who is in Kenya for us. But first, here's a report about the East African country's digital migration process.
In one of Kenya's retail outlets, on display, the latest consignment of television sets. A few clients sample what the store has to offer. Nairobi is gearing up for the digital crossover.
When people come here, they are specifically coming and asking whether it is digital. Every month the business is increasing.
And by June next year, Kenya hopes to have completed the digital migration across the whole country. Away from the retail outlets, the Information and Communications Ministry has organized an exhibition where licensed digital top-set box dealers can interact with consumers. Media owners in Kenya have moved to court challenging the December switchover on grounds that they have not been adequately involved.
Other than the challenges of people making a lot of noise that we are not ready, we are going to cover the whole of Kenya before Tanzania finishes the expansive Tanzanian country.
Digital broadcasting offers sharper and brighter pictures, and one bandwidth can carry several channels.
We are hoping to talk to Sarah Kimani to give us the latest in Nairobi, Kenya. Now, Mauritania is a country in desperate need of good health facilities. One high-tech operating room already exists, and it serves a lifeline to many children suffering from congenital heart defects.
In a high-tech operating room, a team of 10 surgeons and nurses fuss around Falou Samba. He's a 7-year-old boy with a congenital heart defect known as blue baby syndrome. The boy's case is common here.
These are children who cannot learn or work, who are hampered in their daily lives and who are exposed to accidents that lead to sudden death.
Because of this worrying disease, Paris-based Mauritanian heart surgeon Professor Mohamed Lai travels home at least once a year to help his country tackle heart diseases. For 4 hours, he will operate on Falou to maintain his heart and lung functions using machines. With the high-tech operations and the relative fragility of children in care, Professor Lai and his team will operate on 12 young Mauritanians in 5 days. Professor Lai's long-term plan is to start a center for thoracic cardiovascular surgery, what he calls a regional center of excellence in the country.
What is needed is the financial support that will allow us to establish the infrastructure needed and one that is properly equipped. We will continue to evolve like that until there are structures in place to expand this initiative in the sub-region as well.
Since 2010, Professor Lai's foundation has performed more than 200 surgical procedures.
The American technology giant Apple has signed a deal to bring its iPhone to China Mobile, the world's largest carrier. The Chinese firm has more than 760 million subscribers. Apple has been looking to boost its sales in China, but has struggled amid growing competition. The deal could add billions of dollars to Apple's revenue.
Both Apple and China's LTE have needed a deal for a long time. It's been a rough year for their shareholders, with Apple only recently clawing its way back into positive territory, largely on the back of the promise of a China mobile agreement. LTE has seen slower user growth rates than its main competitors in China, though it's still way ahead in terms of total numbers. Extra iPhone sales will this deal actually translate into? Industry insiders, it could be 17 million units through 2014. Pending 4G rollout will allow for a better experience using an iDevice in the country. Market share in the world's biggest smartphone market, China, slid to just 6%, way behind Samsung.
To find us on SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter, it's newsnetwork@sabc.co.za on email. Let's take a short break. When we return, we'll talk about the year that was for sabcnews.co.za.
We've searched long and hard to get a positive voice on e-tolling in South Africa. You are the man on the spot this morning, Doctor.
This is a classic example of people not being able to see the wood for the trees, because we should concentrate on the roads and think about what it was before these roads were improved.
I want to ask you, though, about the profitability of e-tolling and the fact that so much of the profits will be going to Austria. What is your opinion on this?
This is a pretty rubbish argument. Get the emotions out of the way and just appreciate the fact that we've got these first-class roads, and if we want better roads in future, in Cape Town, in Durban, wherever, in Pretoria, we're going to have to pay for it, and this is the most efficient way to pay for it.
I think I'm going to ask the Minister of Transport to take you on a roadshow, sir.
Watch Newsroom with me, Eben Janssen. Weekdays at 9 a.m. Central African Time. Only on SABC News.
With so many bad incidents happening around us, we continue sourcing, unpacking and televising nation-building and compassionate stories. From the nation's pride, those who go all out, top achievers, hard workers, those dedicated to making this country a better place, and unusual friendships. Catch all these and more on SABC News.
You're on network. Thank you very much for joining us. SABC.co.za/news is one of the most popular news websites in South Africa. Every day, journalists from the website are also trying to keep up with social media to update stories. SABC.co.za/news and its YouTube page are a place where you can find SABC TV and radio news content that you missed. Network also has a page there. Now, joining us in studio to talk about the website is Tegan Betzer, who is a digital media specialist with SABC.co.za/news. Thank you for being a part of our network.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Now, what have some of your 2013 highlights been?
There have been many highlights. Some of the top stories that we've had on our site include Oscar Pistorius, Vuyombulu's passing, as well as our coverage of Nelson Mandela. And we've also had some great highlights on our YouTube channel too. Our top 10 video list is dominated by videos on Vuyombulu and Nelson Mandela.
Now, how does the website differ from TV and radio?
Well, we provide the best selection of radio and TV content, as well as multimedia, special reports, exclusive coverage of live events, and breaking news, of course. Our site, as you mentioned, is doing incredibly well. It is the biggest SABC website. And that growth we attribute to the increase in our multimedia offerings, our improvement in our social media presence, and also a lot of collaborative work with TV and radio as well. So we work on we have a multi-platform approach, and within that we don't work in a silo. We collaborate with TV and radio. So if you see tweets on TV, or if you get a podcast of a radio bulletin, those are a couple of the initiatives that we've been involved in.
It's interesting that you mentioned Twitter. How do you keep up? Because sometimes you hear people saying that stories are being broken on Twitter.
Absolutely. We're fortunate that our SABC journalists are right in the social media space, and we have an official list of journalists on Twitter where if they happen to be at a protest, if they are at the courthouse, then they can tweet, and what we do is we automatically retweet. They will use a hashtag called #SABC News. Unfortunately, Joe and Jane Soap at home can't get in the action and use that hashtag. It's only used for our journalists.
So you do verify?
We do verify, absolutely. It's important. And it's very easy to get caught up in all the hype and if a story breaks. But we like to just verify, well, not like to, but it's a necessity to verify and to check and confirm, rather than just jump on the bandwagon, because you can land into a lot of hot water doing that.
Earlier you mentioned that there's some content that would come from TV and come from radio as well on the website. How do you pick that content?
That we take as much, well, basically we take almost everything. We are selective. You mentioned we've got network on our YouTube channel, and we've got focus and special assignment, and we will select from diaries, and we'll choose material from there.
You also mentioned that you worked really hard during the passing of former President Nelson Mandela. What's some of the content that people can find there on Nelson Mandela specifically?
We've created a special Nelson Mandela special report, and there's a wealth of material on that report. We had the news stories, but also multimedia content, and we developed a lot of innovative ways of producing and publishing information. So we created a heat map, for example, of the heads of states heads of state or the representatives who'd be visiting the country and attending the memorial service. So if you clicked on the map, you would get some information on the representative or the heads of state, and it's just an interactive way of dealing with the information that we've provided. We've also took it a little bit further in terms of how we've mapped and used multimedia tools by creating video flyovers. So what we did was, with the procession to Union Buildings, with the lying in state, we created a video flyover using Google Earth, where our users, instead of just seeing a static map, they'd actually be taken on a journey throughout the procession.
All right. Now, apart from just viewing the content, how can people that visit your website interact with the website?
Definitely via social media. That's a great way. We encourage interaction. We ask questions on a daily basis. We encourage responses, debate, conversation.
Comments, maybe?
Comments, definitely. We don't take comments on our website itself, but we do the comments within our social media space. So on Facebook, on Twitter, We welcome comments there, and those comments get showcased on our website. We will publish them on our site, as well as when we do collaborative work with television and with radio, those comments do come into play there.
There's an element of live streaming as well that one can find on sabcnews.co.za or sabc.co.za/news rather. And how do you pick some of that, some of the stuff that you stream on the website?
Well, once again, in terms of picking, we are selective, but not that selective. So if there's a press conference happening, we'll take that live. If it's a Comrades Marathon or the Farlam Commission of Inquiry, or Cape Town Jazz Festival, we live stream a lot of events. And in terms of the Nelson Mandela coverage, we had continuous live streaming. So it was 24/7 live stream coverage.
You mentioned Nelson Mandela quite a bit. You mentioned the funeral of Wambuli, but there were some quirky stories that people seem to love.
Some of them were, which we found were a lioness giving birth to 8 cubs, which just kind of took over on YouTube at a certain point. And Gaga kind of reigned at one point, Lady Gaga ruled at one point, but the lioness and her cubs took over.
Yeah, people are loving that lioness and cubs.
Absolutely.
All right, it's 2014 in a couple of days. So what can we expect in 2014?
Well, there's some big things happening, and which include the elections as well as the World Cup. So keep your eyes on our website and just watch the space. We've got some great things planned.
All right, so you have some great things planned.
Yes.
And you also share some of your content on different programs here on the news channel as well.
Absolutely, we will.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you very much, Tegan Betzer, for joining us here on Network.
Thank you.
All right. Now, let's move to gaming now. Samsung has launched a mobile gamepad that enables users to play their favorite smartphone games using a proper console game controller.
This is a Samsung gamepad, a mobile controller designed to make gaming easier for those game-crazed folks. The console was launched for European markets earlier this month. The mobile console can be connected to the latest Samsung Galaxy range. The Samsung Galaxy Note 3 seems to be the popular device among gamers. One can simply play their favorite smartphone game by detaching the clamp on the console, attaching their mobile device on the gamepad, and it is game on. Samsung has not said when it will launch the mobile gaming console to the rest of the world yet.
When we return, we'll look at some of the issues we covered in 2013 and some of the guests who paid us a visit. SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter.
Wanda, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And then spit like. You really like sushi?
Not really, but I do eat sushi. At some stage, actually, I was suicidal.
I'm from having a nightmare. Woo, Toto, you're going to have a big bum. Have you guys ever, kicked the ball together with Daddy?
Yeah. I mean, he kicked me more than the ball.
That's Up Close, Monday to Thursday, 2:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Good afternoon, you're watching the news at 1.
One of South Africa's largest education departments has a new boss.
I will also motivate learners to love learning.
Yesterday, the lobby group lost yet another court bid to have the system halted.
Global wealth has risen by 68% over the past 10 years. That's according to a new Credit Suisse report. Well, it seems there's more gloomy forecasts in the foreseeable future for South Africa's economy.
We need to sort out this mess in the labour market.
That's News at 1, daily at 1 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. In the last few months, we covered a lot of events and issues on the show. We can't compress them in this one episode, but here are some highlights Buitumelo Kasa found.
2013 was a very interesting year for technology. Since the inception of Network, we have followed some technological trends. From power cuts in Johannesburg to cable theft and the Eskom strike, which was blamed for power outages in parts of Africa's richest city. We also visited the October Motor Show to see the unveiling of the Nissan Leaf, the first all-electrical car to be commercially sold in the South African market. There were also other cars there. We told you about how Kenya's Red Cross used Twitter to respond to some of the need after Nairobi's Westgate Mall in Kenya. Then we showed you the portable eye examination kit or PEEK, which is currently being tested in Kenya.
A lot of people visited us for discussions as well. They include ThoughtWorks, Vodacom, and the Innovation Hub.
During the course of the year, we spoke to experts in the tech world. McLean Sibanda discusses what InfoHub is all about.
We run a number of programs. In this particular case, we run some skills development programs, some incubation programs. We run a number of competitions, and we do a number of events to be able to foster innovation within the Gauteng economy. So the Innovation Hub, in essence, is a subsidiary of the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency.
We also found out how difficult it is to tap into President Barack Obama's cell phone.
I think the United States has gone into quite a bit of effort to make sure that their president especially is kept fairly secure in terms of his communication as well as who he talks to and what he's got to say. Technically, it's not that it can't be tapped, it's just a little bit more difficult. His phone is not actually on a conventional telephone network. His phone is connected to a secure server, which is then connected to a satellite. So, for example, if I was to call Mr. Obama, I would have to be vetted earlier on and put on that network, and then we'll be able to communicate directly.
The government launched Mido Export to help entrepreneurs.
I've been on a week-long boot camp with Mido. It was a great experience, together with other entrepreneurs, sharing ideas. The key thing as an entrepreneur is really finding the incubator that works for the stage of business you're in, and obviously specifically the industry you're in, because it's necessary to get the right expertise to support your business growth. From a technology perspective, they've put in some good technology that I think will be beneficial to companies in the tech space, and so I think there's an opportunity to see some good results there.
Vodacom had their own rural area initiatives.
We realized that in rural areas where there is no conventional electricity, we definitely had a role to play. So what Vodacom did, because we have to power our own base stations in rural communities, we realized that we could do two things. The one is retrofit our base stations to use solar power, and renewable energy is a huge focus for South Africa at the moment. And the second thing was to give some of that energy to the communities that are off-grid and so desperately need access to electricity. We used the roof of the school to place our thin film solar panels on, and in that way we were able to power base station and get off dirty diesel and to use clean fuels through renewable energy, but we were also able to give at least half of the energy harnessed to the school and to the community.
Pedigree was also introduced.
Pedigree is an application, actually. It's actually a brainchild by a Ghanaian entrepreneur. He's a tech innovator. His name is Bright Simmons. And it was birthed by this guy from Ghana. And, with that bright idea, it had to be coupled with, some tech innovators as well. That's how ThoughtWorks came in, and our Pillar 3, which is social and economic justice, because we actually were motivated and we found it interesting that it was something that was positively impacting the community. So what Pedigree does, it allows everybody with a mobile phone, be it a feature phone or a smartphone, to validate medication that they've bought to ascertain whether that medication is valid or counterfeit.
That's what's been happening in social media in the last few days. South African cricketer Jacques Kallis became the fourth South African to score over a century in their last Test match. Proteas have been playing India. South Africans were thanking him on Twitter with hashtags Thank You Kallis, King Kallis and Legend. This tweet is happy that he becomes the third highest Test scorer. And A to Z says Kallis is the best all-rounder ever. In Kenya, people have been sharing this photo of President Uhuru Kenyatta reading a newspaper in a village. He also shared this picture of his meeting with South Sudan's President Salva Kiir and Ethiopian Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn. Some have been chatting about South African President Jacob Zuma inviting people of Nkandla to his home. This tweet says those that packed the house were there to support the Jacob G. Zuma Foundation. Some also say villagers were treated with parcels and blankets. 365-day leader shared this photo of a beneficiary of the foundation speaking. She now has an honors degree. That's all we have. Remember, it's SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter, News Network at sabc.co.za and email. Thank you for being a part of our network. We leave you with a video we found on YouTube. Just type Jeep Jab 2013 year in review there and you will find it. Some creative souls animated the year. From me and the rest of the team, enjoy the rest of the festive season. Don't let your friends drive drunk. Have a good one.
So long 2013, it's time to send you on your way. With your chaos in Egypt, drones in Pakistan, the spying NSA. A sequester and then a shutdown.
Obamacare was finally here.
Crack smoking mayors, Carlos Data 2013, what a year. The Pope said, not even dancing. We decided it's okay for gays to wed. Northwest and then a royal baby. We really knocked them dead. New iPhones and Harlem shaking.
I got my twerking butt in here. Skank.
My empire grew bigger.
I said
2013, what a year.
Hey, what's the holdup? I'm a TV actor. I'm a rock star. I transformed a nation. Show off.
Blockbuster back in Grand Theft Auto and the Fox says
Your world.